Hey y'all, welcome back. Sonic and Shadow Generations is coming out in just a few days. Or actually, it's Sonic X Shadow Generation. Sonic Cross Shadow? Sonic X Shadows, because we gotta have X instead of and, because Sega was so cool. Shadow's so cool, there's an X in front of... I'll stop. But in a couple days, the greatly titled Sonic X Shadow Generations will be coming out. But what does that mean for the original? Well, it's time to say goodbye. Let's say farewell to Sonic Generations. Now this banger of a game, because that's what it was a really solid, fun, great Sonic game. I mean, still today, it's good. That's why it's getting a remaster. Man, this game came out in 2011. That's so long. How is that so long ago? Oh my god. All right. Hey. Just disregard that meltdown. So this game came out in 2011. That's a long time ago. And it was a big year for Sonic because it was the 20th anniversary of the franchise. All eyes were on Sega and Sonic Team as we waited for some kind of announcement or news about a upcoming Sonic game. And they answered that with Sonic Generations. You know, nowadays it feels impossible. Like, Sonic is a forever franchise. The very idea of the Sonic franchise dying is now laughable. Everyone has faith or just knows that Sonic is a brand that's here to stay. But in 2011, things were not so clear. Things were not so good. Actually, it was pretty terrible, especially if you didn't have a Nintendo console. Now, if you had a GameCube, you're pretty much eating well. You know, the PS2 ports were not good of these games, but Sonic Heroes was pretty fun. And for Sonic Adventure 1 and 2, that was your only way to play them outside of a Dreamcast. So they were really fun experiences, and they never got ported anywhere else. They were not on the 360 PS3 yet, so that was purely a GameCube experience. And now you've got Shadow the Hedgehog coming out, which is not a very good game. And now for the brand new systems, the 360 and the PS3, wow. Saying that as like they're new. God, I feel old. Anyway, you didn't have anything on those consoles. In fact, you only had bad experiences. Sonic 06 drops on PS3, Xbox 360. That game is undeniably bad. And then a 2 years down the road, you've got Sonic Unleashed, a super polarizing mixed bag. You know, half of it is some of the best of what Sonic games have to offer. The daytime stages where you're just playing as Sonic, they are really good. I mean, really, really good. It holds up fantastically well. Another 2008 game that holds up better than some modern games do now. And it's just a shame because the game is marred and bogged down by the Werehog. Oh boy, the Werehog sections where you're playing as this like Plastic Man, Mr. Fantastic, stretchy arm ripoff, waddling around super slow. Because that's what Sonic should be, slow as hell. And you're just doing boring beat 'em ups with the same music track playing over and over again. You're slowly climbing up stuff. You're slowly jumping on crates and moving crates. It's just padding the game. And it feels horrifically bad. Like, it's just not a fun experience for me. It never will be. I've always played Unleashed just desperately trying to get back to the daytime levels, right? And that's a whole nother video. We could talk about how weird Unleashed ended up. But I just wanted to, like, show you and talk about, like, this is what you've got on 360 PS3. You've got Sonic 06 and Sonic Unleashed. That's it. All right, you're not happy as a Sonic fan. All right, you're probably very annoyed and you're thinking like, dear God, Sonic is terrible. Can they even make a good game anymore? And that's just in your bubble, sadly, because if you had a Wii, I mean, everyone had a Wii. Like, if it wasn't just a Wii Sports console, if you actually got games for it, you'd know that Sonic is not that bad. Actually, Sonic's doing pretty good. You got Sonic and the Secret Rings and Sonic and the Black Knight, these fantasy-styled stories and adventures, which actually I think are pretty fun. Then you've got actually a very fun game, a game that floored me because it just gave me hope in the franchise, which was Sonic Colors. Now the story, nothing is bad to me in Sonic Colors. Yes, it's a little gimmicky with the wisps, but through and through, Sonic Colors is a fantastic experience and just a solid, great Sonic game. And that's all I wanted at the time, was just wanted a fun Sonic game, just like the ones I used to play. You know, you don't need a super in-depth, serious storyline. The storyline in Colors is fun, charming, it's funny, it's lighthearted. You know, it doesn't have to be only lighthearted, but the story actually has to be fun to go through. The story actually has to be engaging. and I just want to play as Sonic and have a good time. And that's what Sonic Colors delivered on through and through. It was a super fun experience. Like Sonic Unleashed, like if you just make Knuckles, speaking of like the beat 'em up part of that game, it's super fun and it works. But that's the problem Sonic Team was having, was they were just using Sonic as a vessel for whatever they wanted to, and not even asking once if like, is this good for Sonic? No, they just wanted to go for whatever gimmicks they were going for at the time. Anyway, what I'm trying to get at is I'm trying to set up where you're at as a Sonic fan in 2011 and where Sonic Team is at this point. You know, they've released some real duds, some real franchise enders. But in that, you know, muck, in those bad games, we had a couple fun experiences over there in that wee bubble. Then Sonic Colors drops, and that's just really fun. It's a really great experience. Sonic Team nails it. And so that's what I find really interesting about Sonic Colors and Generations, is how they're paired together. There's some lessons learned from Unleashed, sure, but really, this is like Sonic Team's Nintendo formula thrown onto the rest of the systems, finally. And it just really works. You don't see many direct sequels in terms of Sonic games anymore. That's why I think Generations is so special, because Generations is really a nice follow-up to Colors and what Colors tried to do. And to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the entire franchise, I think you couldn't have gone with a better idea than try to iterate upon what Colors did right. It's funny now looking back, you know, because I didn't really catch all of it, but really, like modern Sonic and Sonic Team had this little problem that they were going over, like, do we have an established timeline? And so what they did with Generations is I find this really interesting. There's now a split. So basically, Generations is the Wii franchise jumping ship to the rest of the systems. Like, that's official now. This is what we're going with. Like, don't look at 06 or Unleashed. They are self-contained now. We will not be talking about them. We are the Wii era, and now we're Generations. Because listen to what Sonic says about his previous adventures at the start of this game.
Is it me, or is that place we were just in awfully familiar?
Not to me, but this place looks like something sucked all the life and color out of it. Totally strange.
No stranger than rescuing genies in magic books or saving aliens in an interstellar amusement park. I'm more concerned about finding our friends.
Maybe you had some doubts to what I was saying before, but now do you see what I'm talking about? Like Sonic Team even has Sonic himself referencing just the Wii adventures. You know, he references what? Storybook series and Sonic Colors. That's what Sonic Team is trying to push to you. Like, this is the next adventure after Colors. It's Sonic Generations. The Wii era is now the main modern era, and that's the timeline we're going with. We're not talking about 06. We're not talking about Unleashed. Those are self-contained stories. They're not connected. We're sorry. That's what it feels like anyway, as Sonic Team tried to set up what Generations was gonna be like. And I think it's a nice amalgamation of the Wii era, of what worked, and what, like, the lessons they learned from Unleashed. I think it's a nice combo, and that's why I think Generations works so well. You get to play modern and classic Sonic stages of levels throughout Sonic's history. I mean, new and old 3D versions of Sonic, like Genesis era, and then you get like 2D versions of some of the newer stuff, like the Colors and Adventure series, and it just works so well. I mean, there's some little issues I could talk about like briefly, but overall, the stages were so fun, and there were new experiences tied up with, of course, like some nostalgic areas. And considering this was the 20-year anniversary, I welcomed the nostalgia. I think we all did. Now, can we just talk the game? Like, it just oozes charm, you know, like just like Colors did. But really, Generations from start to finish is just bursting with Sonic references, little nice moments, and remixes of great songs. Like Knuckles Chaotix songs I never thought I'd hear a remix of are banging in this game. The soundtrack is just pure gold, all right? And that's something I used to always brag about, was that you could have a bad Sonic game, but you can't have a bad Sonic soundtrack. Like, almost every Sonic game I've ever played has had a stellar soundtrack. And it's not really true anymore, because Force's soundtrack to me is terrible, and Frontiers is not much better. There's a couple songs here and there, but I don't like either. But, I mean, whatever. That's fine. You can get some duds. But still, like, Sonic Generations, like, that OST is brilliant. It's so good. You get to like pick and choose whatever song you want as you unlock more songs per course. It's just, oh man, it just works so well. You know, classic Sonic is back and he controls great. Like 2D Sonic in the modern era has always been a little bit rough. I think Colors controlled fine. I'd argue that that's one of the problems with Sonic Generations, is that it does transition to 2D in the modern era a bit too much for my liking, and that's why it's a follow-up to Colors, I think, because Colors does the same thing. All of a sudden you're jumping into 2D for a while. And in Colors it worked perfectly fine, because it was just 3D and 2D modern Sonic. But in Generations, with 2D classic Sonic controlling so well, controlling so fun, I don't have a lot of space or patience for 2D modern Sonic at that point. It's almost like, why the hell isn't he just in 3D? You know, and that's kind of tied into the Colors formula, because that's what they copied for Generations, was that Sonic Colors formula. So modern Sonic is 2D and 3D, for better or for worse. In some stages it works really well, and some stages I don't like it at all. But that's one of the few issues I have with Generations, and that's fine. You know, now it's with Frontiers, it's mostly just 3D, and it works very well, but this was still an era where Sonic Team was afraid to go full 3D. I guess they're still worried about like time and like how gameplay hours, how much you're spending on the game versus how much time you're spending. And the Colors Connections doesn't stop right there, because like as you finish out your stages, all of a sudden all these mini stages appear, like a bunch of them, to get to the next boss. And that's kind of how Colors did their stages, where you'd have 2 main acts and then a bunch of mini stages. And that's a little divisive too for some people, and honestly, I'm not looking forward to doing that again. The remake, like I've been so used to just doing the main stages, because I did all the mini ones like one and done and went back to the mainline stages over and over again. So that's something I'm not looking forward to, really. And that's one of the uglier sides of it being a sequel to Sonic Colors. But all things considered, the mini games, the mini modes are fine. There's some fun boss fights in there, like the Metal Sonic boss fight's really good. So I think that would have been a far better idea than just go like mini bosses instead of just pure on all these Sonic Colors mini gimmick stages, but that's a small problem in the grand scheme of things. And while I'd argue that the adventure formula, control-wise, is peak for me, because that's pure 3D platformer, like no one does it like Sonic, especially for the Adventure Series 1 and 2. They just really nailed their own speed platformer 3D kind of gameplay, that I do miss that. But the boost formula works, and sometimes it's like, man, I wish I just hear the music without the boost noise with it. But, I mean, come on. The boost levels are fantastic. I mean, Green Hill is so good. Like, this level does not deserve... Like, it has no reason to go this hard for a first level, but it's awesome. And 2D and 3D. But modern Green Hill was such a banger that I was so happy for the future of Sonic right then and there in 2011, because it felt like Sonic Team knew what they had to do to make a great Sonic game. And once again, we're kind of in the zone of we're hoping for the best nowadays. But at a time where if you were only on 360, you were playing lots of duds. So this was a real good showing that, like, no, Sonic has some legs, all right? Sonic is a great series. This is why I like Generations so much, because it's a nice reminder of just how many good Sonic games there are out there, and how a good Sonic game can exist in almost any era, because that gameplay is undeniably unique and always fun. And I saw there was some rumblings about people saying that this like remaster, Sonic X Shadow remaster, wasn't needed. Maybe if you're just on PC, or if you had the PC version of Sonic Generations for a long time. I know it's wonderfully supported with mods and has a great community around it, but I don't have it on PC. I have it on console. A 13-year-old console game, which is showing its age. Like, when I went to look at the first cutscene in the theater area, like, it looked really pixelated. Like, you got any of them pixels? Because I sure could have needed them. So I started a new game thinking maybe it was just a bad theater mode, but no, it looks the same. It looks just as bad if you hit a new game versus the theater mode. Like, wow, things look very, very pixelated. It's looking old, right? It's showing its age. So in terms of that, for the console upscaling and everything, I think, oh yeah, a remaster is very much appreciated. And I hope Sonic X Shadow doesn't have any weird issues with the PC port, so all the modders can just bring up all their cool mods and levels right back out to the new version. But I do think this is a necessary remaster, and it's a fun experience for people who haven't had a chance to play this game yet. You know, it's very good. You've got a cool little store system that has upgrades for classic and modern Sonic to go through and equip little like sets of skills. I think it's really cool. You've got a great like extra area that goes over music, cutscenes, artwork. The game really does feel like a nice celebration to Sonic, which is exactly what we needed to happen for his 20th anniversary. Like, Sonic Team nailed it. Now, on top of that, for the remaster, we're getting a really cool, and I'm interested in what the Shadow storyline has to offer. Like, we're getting a lot of Sonic Adventure, like, lore and love and attention, and I always love that. We're gonna get to play through some Shadow Sonic Adventure levels, some Sonic Hero stuff, even Shadow the Hedgehog levels. But it should be really fun to go through those areas again, to really see what Sonic Team did to update and like to bring those levels into the modern Boost era. It's gonna be cool to see what they do. And so that's why we're here to say farewell to Sonic Generations. We're here to say farewell to a great game. A great game that we were all hoping to have, that we kind of needed to have, as the rocky road finally led to some greener pastures. You know, the Wii fans got to say, see, we told you Sonic's been fun. And so farewell, Generations. It's been real, bud. You were a great game. Until next time, I'll catch y'all later.